Welcome to the Inspiration Contagion podcast, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each episode spotlights and interviews one transformational leader, their stories, and their advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. If you are a visionary seeking to uplevel your leadership skills, then this is the podcast for you. I invite you today to spread inspiration like a contagion. Welcome to the Inspiration Contagion movement. Welcome to episode 31 of the Inspiration Contagion podcast. Today's show is also being recorded for YouTube, so if you'd prefer to watch, please check out the show notes for that link. Please welcome me and joining today's guest, Andrew Verducci. Andrew is a CEO and founder of Verducci Event Productions. Verducci Entertainment, as it was called back then, was a one-man show with an incredible ability to create relationships in the community, all with a passion for entertainment flair. Andrew was a teacher fresh out of college. At this time, he had used money from his nanny to buy his first set of DJ equipment to begin building a strong presence in the area, and ended up closing the company's inaugural year with a whopping 23 events. Having been strongly influenced by his grandfather, a well-known local businessman, Andrew knew even then that going the extra mile for his clients would pay off, and it did. With more event opportunities coming his way through the following year and a vision of great things to come, he set out to ensure that the people he served would be his strength, his focus, and his energy, just like his grandfather. When Andrew and Lawrence first met, they didn't decide right away that they would create a business together or that they would merge to be a dynamic duo that we know today. However, they quickly realized that with Andrew's excellent networking skills and Lawrence's keen mind for business, they could form a balanced partnership. Their newly formed partnership was about working together to build an unstoppable company that would never leave their clients unsatisfied. And so it began. Andrew and Lawrence put everything they had into making the wheels turn for one company instead of two. Because of their strong community ties, they threw all of their eggs in one basket and pushed the envelope to make Verducci Entertainment a huge success. From 23 events to 47, then 91 to 202, Verducci Entertainment soon became Verducci Event Production. With the support of a talented team, Andrew and Lawrence pushed forward and expanded the company's reach to specialize in photo booths, lighting, and audio-visual support. Now, the only thing these two had on their mind was who is going to do all of these gigs? The reinvestment never stopped. Andrew and Lawrence poured every leftover cent into new equipment, system improvements, and of course, the people that hopped on the fun bus with them. With a strong team of talented individuals to support each event, the Verducci team saw exponential growth almost immediately. They gained notoriety through awards from Wedding Wire and The Knot, along with rave reviews from their clients on Yelp. The story, however, doesn't stop there. It continues in a day-to-day pursuit of excellence and, of course, with all of you. And with that, welcome, Andrew.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on, with you. And I'm just so excited just to kind of talk about life, the industry itself. So I know it was a mouthful there for the introduction.
That's a good story. It made me smile. It was really cute. Yeah, no worries. So why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So I graduated from St. Mary's College. I've always been around the peninsula. So I was born in San Mateo, grew up on the peninsula, then went to St. Ignatius High School in San Francisco, and then came across to the East Bay to St. Mary's College, got my teaching credentials and also my master's in teaching. So I was teaching at the same time while I was doing this whole DJ bit. And then it just became apparent to me that I can actually do this for a career. So I created Verducci Entertainment, as you heard, and then I met my business partner not too long after that. And then we just kind of put all of our eggs in one basket and went after our dreams. And that was in 2009. So it's been 11 years going on 12. And so just super excited, to be here and to just talk about the industry. I love what I do, and our company now really more specializes in AV, more AV production, video staging, lighting design, than the earlier stages where we were more kind of wedding and social focused.
Got it. And how are things going today with your company? Have you guys had to pivot a lot or just a little bit?
We had to pretty much pivot everything that we were doing prior, and that's just given the times. We can't have really in-person events. I mean, we actually just did an in-person wedding this past weekend, but for the most part, everything is pretty much virtual right now. So we decided to pivot right when COVID hit to understand what this whole virtual realm's about. And, unfortunately, just given the times, with a lot of postponements and cancellations, we had to let a lot of our team go. So that was like the most painful thing as owners. Just we love the people that have invested their time into our company, but it was also one of those things too, where given the times, we just knew that we had to pivot, probably had to let go of a lot of our employees, just hoping for the best that this would turn. And so we'll see. We're hopeful at this point, just to assure that, we got to do what we got to do as a business, but at the same time, we're always thinking about our employees and hopefully getting them back as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of really excited for life to go back to somewhat of a new normal. And
Yeah.
I certainly miss DJ'd music and events and socialization and all of that fun stuff. So I hope for your sake and for everyone's that we get past this pretty quickly.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so since we're on the Inspiration Contagion podcast, I wanted to ask you, what makes you an inspirational leader or what's your secret sauce?
I think for me, it's always been about positivity. I grew up in a Sicilian household, so it was always about being positive and showing each other, mutual respect and listening. And, especially during this time, I had to figure out too, like, what can I do to stand up and be one of those pillars of strength that people can lean on in our industry, just because in the events industry, we were considered non-essential, and you're seeing your friends' businesses, close down, or they're giving up on their dream. And so I've always said it's always been about positivity, knowing that when they talk to me, it's always going to be positive. It's always going to be thinking outside the box. How can I help you out? And that I'm actually listening to you, and trying to find solutions to whatever the problem is, or if it's just, hey, I just need a shoulder to lean on at that time. So I've been doing during these times these virtual quarantine dance parties. I've never done a virtual dance party before up until this time, but I wanted it to be a community of people via Facebook that they can come and be a part of this 2-hour dance session and just let everything go. The negativity that we were hearing from the news, your friends and family that were getting negative and going down that path just because it's the fear factor of COVID. And I just said, this is a place where we can be with one another. There's mutual respect, there's love, there's care, there's friendship, but most importantly, there's positivity. So that's how I've really been able to make a name for myself, I think, through this industry, is just knowing that I'm always smiles, no matter what the things are going on in the world, or with my business or my personal life. It's just always smiles and knowing that they can come to me and, they can get a hug if they need. I know I've been doing a lot of virtual hugs during this time, but they just know the type of person that they're getting when they reach out to me.
That's beautiful. It sounds like that's a big part of who you are authentically, is just positive and making the most out of everything and being that leaning shoulder for people. And that's definitely inspirational, especially with all the things that people are facing today. It's nice that they have that pillar of strength with you. I love it. So, what does inspiration mean to you?
I think for me, I have a story, if you don't mind me sharing. The story with this 9-year-old, and this is how I got started in the virtual realm. Is I went ahead, did this virtual party for about a week, had no idea about the platform and just the reach I was going to have with people out there in social media. And then this mom reached out to me. Her name was Sonia, and her 9-year-old boy was dealing with stage 4 cancer. And so she reached out and said, hey, I turned on your virtual DJ party, and he was on the ground crying. He was struggling. He was weak. He just came back from radiation. And he said, he saw you on the screen. As soon as I put him on the big 55-inch TV, as soon as he saw your face, it was like you lifted his spirits up to a whole new level. And you just took him to a place where he was able to kind of forget about everything. and just know that he was able to focus on you, seeing your smile and positivity. But then it's funny because I think about it now and I think about him. I'm like, well, he lifted my spirits up. Like he was an inspiration because after just reading the story, I'm like, wow, like it's not about me. It's about this kid that just inspired me, lifted my spirits up to figure out what else can I do to not just help him, but help, anyone else that was dealing with, stage 4 cancer, any type of cancer. And so I always think it's one of those things where inspirational people just bring you up to a whole new level that you never thought that you could be, or maybe you've been there before, but you needed someone to lift you to that place. And so I've always taken it as that. And just knowing that they're always looking out for your well-being, and always just thinking about if there's a problem, there's solutions to the problem, how can you be proactive, but also inspiration means that they're also helping you grow, as a person itself.
Yeah, I like how you shared that while you were inspiring him, you also found him inspiring. And it's interesting. I find that a lot of inspirational leaders that I've interviewed, they feel that way. So they're typically mentors or leaders in their community, and they're offering that value like you were sharing. And they have the best interests for people in the community. And through inspiring their community, they're equally inspired by the people they're inspiring. So it's kind of this ripple
Yeah.
cyclical effect. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And it's just awesome too, because the best part about it is it's not just about, okay, I'm inspiring someone and I'm, obviously getting all the compliments and things like that, but it's just knowing the fact that your reach, especially during this time, right? Where people are looking for that inspiration. They're looking for that positivity, someone that can just help them. And everyone has their own story especially during COVID, right? Everyone has their own story, their own issues of what they're going through. And it's just cool to know that when you're hearing people's stories and, hey, I was at this place, but then I saw your dance session, or I had a conversation with you and you were just willing to listen and give some proactive solutions to help me get in a better place. And it just naturally lifts your spirit up, knowing that you have that reach and have that ability just to touch one person. And I always tell my fiance this, I'm like, if you can go every day and just touch one person, and inspire them, I said, then I'm living a great life. I don't care whatever else is going on in the world. I said, I know I'm just making those little incremental differences, in our community or the greater community that's out there.
Yeah, and it really is just one person at a time. And, a lot of people will say, oh, I want to change the world. And it really does start with just influencing or helping or impacting just one person at a time. And then hopefully they pass that on and pay it forward. All
Yes.
right. I love that. How do you define success for yourself, and how did you arrive at this definition?
Wow. Well, success to me, it means so much in so many different formats and ways to different people. For me, for success just in life, I feel like I'm living it right now, where I have just such a great group of friends, people that I can, depend on. We can have honest, conversations. So you have that little circle of trust that I like to say. Um, and for me, through my passion for love what I do within the entertainment and events industry, I've also brought along my fiance, who was really inspired by what I was doing out there in the events industry, and that's kind of what started the conversation introduction between us two. And it's just been great to know that, like, outside of work you have that great family and friend support. And then with work itself, it's just awesome when you talk to people within our industry and we bounce ideas off each other. Like, hey, you know what? Like when I was getting into this industry, I remember, the events that you were doing and how you inspired my creativity in lighting or AV or stage design. Or, hey, I remember you when you just started off as a DJ, and here you are now, you have over 50 employees and you're doing these big events for Facebook and Google. But I remember you when you were just the single op. So to have those people along the journey that have seen you kind of grow from kind of that starting point to now you're known as one of the experts within the industry that people can lean on for support and knowledge. I think that's, for me, what I define success is. You have that balance between, I think, your personal success and then also your professional success, because I think they're two different things, but they, in a way, they correlate with one another. Because I do feel that when you're things are going well in your personal life, I mean, it correlates with what's happening with your professional life too, because you're taking that energy and that happiness, that joy, that life that you have, and you're taking that right into what you love to do for a living, which for me, it's events.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. It's a really great definition. I also like that you built that community and you've shared that community alongside the journey, and they've been able to celebrate and acknowledge your progress along that route to success personally and professionally. And I think it's really important today to have that inner circle of people that you can trust and have those candid discussions with. I'm finding these days that with social media and just the way things are, it's becoming more and more impossible to actually have real conversations
Yeah.
with real people.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so controlled through social media, and I've always told our friends, is or family members, hey, when we're together, we're putting the phones away, we're not touching the phones, we're not looking on the internet or anything. We're having these one-on-one conversations, asking how we're doing, and especially during these times right now, I mean, it could just be asking that simple question: how's your day going? How you doing? Do you need anything? And that gets lost in translation so many times, where that can really just help someone out that's going through a difficult time. So I always say it's doing those little things.
Yeah, absolutely. The little things are what matters the most. I was just talking to somebody earlier about some of the small things that we miss during this time, and she was saying, "Oh, it's so silly." And I said, "No, it's really not. It's really about those little things that make us happy and acknowledging that and being grateful for those things." So it's the small things like asking someone how their day is or smiling at them when you're walking outside that make a big impact. Yeah. So, what are some of the challenges or perhaps obstacles that you faced along the way to success?
When you're kind of the new fresh face in the industry, now people knew me through the other company I was working for, but it's really kind of figuring out, okay, how are you going to define you, like you as the person, you as the CEO, and having this brand for yourself. I think that was hard, because it's always, oh, you're the young one, you're the new one in the industry. And when you're obviously, I hate using the word competing, but obviously when you have bids coming out and you're not the only bid for a job, they're always asking about your level of experience. And I always had to come and be honest with them and just say, hey, like, yeah, I don't have the most experience, but I also know the value that I'm going to deliver. So I might not be the most experienced at this, but I do know the product that I'm going to give you. And I feel like just my quality is just, I go over and beyond. That's the only way that I know how to do things. So that was the way for me to like get my foot in the industry, was just, hey, I'm going to do whatever I can. I don't even care if I'm making that much money. For me, it's about being out there, them seeing my product, them knowing that I'm a genuine, authentic person, that I really do truly care about their event, them as the person too, and just to show that on a daily basis. And I said, let the work speak for itself. I don't need to talk about it. Let the work speak for itself out there. And then I just started to, honestly, I just started to network. That was like the biggest thing too, is like at the beginning, I didn't really know how to get into the circles, and everyone had their own little circles within the event industry. And I'm like the new guy kind of popping my head in like, hi, I'm here. I'm the new guy. But I think for me, it was just making that effort of just getting to know people as the person, but also getting to know them as the vendor and how they operate and run their business, and trying to figure out how we can send business to each other and refer business. Because I always say we're in this together. It's not just about my business and me. It's we're in this together as an industry. So also just having that interest in their company and what makes them go, and knowing how I can find them the right clients. So I think it was just the fact that I was really young and new, and I never owned a business before. So you're also trying to find all the nuances and make changes along the way to assure that you're being represented and the business is being represented in the right fashion.
Yeah, I mean, you still look young right now.
Hey, not bad for 36, right?
Exactly. So when you were one of the first challenges you were describing was the brand and branding yourself and as a CEO and as a company. Since we have a lot of people that are entrepreneurs that listen to the show,
Yeah.
what were some helpful tips that they may consider if they're in the early phases of doing the same kind of branding?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things too. You got to have your vision, right? I always say before you even start anything, you have to have the vision. Where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? What about 5 years? And these were questions I never even asked myself. And then I'm like, okay, like now I'm running a business. I have to have a vision and goals. How am I going to achieve, this vision? How am I going to get to these goals? So that's really how I kind of started the thought process. And me being a former teacher, I had a cork board that was set up above my computer, and I just put down my goals. Hey, these are my goals for the year. This is how I'm going to get there. Here's my goals for 3 years. Here are my goals for 5 years. And things might change. It's life. You might have to maneuver them. They might come in different order than what you expected. But I think it's having that vision and having those goals in place, and then just realizing that, like, when you start a business, you're going to have to put a lot of extra time in. You're going to have to spend those long hours. And trust me, there are going to be days and nights that are going to challenge you, days where you don't want to give that additional hour. You're like, I'm tired. I've been already looking at the computer for 10 hours and working on my website or figuring out, putting out content out there. But I always feel like the ones that are willing to kind of go the extra mile and grind, and there are dog days of summer, dog days of, the early parts of the year. That I feel like you put that extra effort up front, it comes back tenfold on the back end. So it's really just kind of making that push at the beginning and knowing that you're going to have long nights. But at the end of the day, you're looking at your goals and your vision and knowing that, this is going to help me get where I need to go in 5 years. And so I've been very lucky to not just have me, but also have my business partner in this with me. So
Yeah, that makes a big difference, is having somebody like in the introduction that helps balance the skills that you bring and they bring other skills, and that makes you a powerhouse as co-founders for the company. So that's great. What is a story of inspiration that you're known for?
story of inspiration. Well, I would say, just given the times right now, I'll go off of just kind of the little 9-year-old boy that I was talking about. So long story short, we got to mid-March. We obviously found out about COVID, and we were always trying to think positive, like, oh, it's just only going to last a couple weeks. It's only going to be here for a couple weeks. We just kept telling ourselves that. And it got to a point where I live in Walnut Creek, and I got into the middle of the Broadway Plaza, and I was going through some health issues too. I've been battling with that for a couple of years, some neurological things, and then also having the stress of the business. And I remember just breaking down and asking God, like, please, can you just send me a sign? I've all my eggs are in one basket with my business. I got to also make sure that I'm healthy too, to be able to get through this time. And then I got home. I had just taken out my DJ mixer board, and all of a sudden there was this ray of light that came through the blinds and landed right on the mixer board. And I was like, okay, well, I guess God's telling me that I need to go back to how I first started my company, which was DJing and using my platform during this time to help bring people together. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do that? I guess I'm going to do this virtual realm and these virtual parties where the camera's on you at all times. And so I started going on Facebook, and I didn't think anything of it. Literally just was like, okay, I'm going to do a virtual party, and people started joining. And then again, you started getting those messages. People were also taking photos and videos and tagging me on social media. But then everyone had their story, like, hey, you know what? Like, I was having a brutal day, or hey, I just lost my grandmother, and these 2 hours lifted my spirits up, and I was able to share with my friends and family. And then a week later, Angel appeared, with Sonia, that reached out to me with her boy that was battling stage 4 bone cancer. And then that gave me the greater purpose of, if I'm going to get through this, it's not just worrying about my story, my company. It's about finding a way to build a platform and a community that you can bring people together. And I'm talking people that haven't even met yet, because when you create watch parties, anyone can see it. And I might not even know who they are, but they're watching my friend's watch party and they're part of that different circle. And it just started to get contagious, where now people are reaching out. You have to do this, every other day. I need you 3 times a week for 2 hours. And I started just using my platform to help nonprofits. So I was helping raise money. We raised money for Angel. He had a birthday wish list, an item list, and his family wasn't able to afford the gifts. And I said, hey, you know what? I'll throw a quarantine dance party for him, and we'll raise the money and I'll hand deliver the gifts to his family in Patterson. So we did that. We raised over $2,700. Just people that were willing to donate, to the cause, and we were able to go ahead and deliver these amazing gifts for him that just lifted up his spirits. And we were able to just to find any other communities throughout this process to help. And then what you saw was all these other people in the events industry that were negative, or and I get it, they're struggling, their businesses were crashing. All of a sudden they're like, you know what, I got to do something with my time. How can I help? Can I help push the message? Can I help you in marketing? Can I just help be on the chat session and get people energized about donating? So now you just saw the community, the industry come together and just want to help. And I just know a lot of people have either called me, text me, they still chat about it, like, man, like, we're still going through it, but those early days were really difficult and I didn't know what I was going to do. And you were just my source of just positivity, because I couldn't even be positive myself. So I had to get it through you, just to find ways to get through my day. And so it's been pretty cool. Cron 4 did a article on me. But again, I told them it's not just me, it's everyone that has contributed to this community that we have, for these virtual parties. So that's kind of the big story right now. And I'm just really fortunate to just have just a great group that believes in the message that I'm putting out there, but also is a part of it too.
Yeah, I know that's beautiful. I like that you tapped into your faith system to get answers and then listened to it and actually did something with that, because a lot of times we'll get those signs or those signals and we won't do anything with it. And how cool that it brought the industry together, even though they were struggling to get behind something that was bigger than what was happening with their business and their own personal struggles. That's definitely the definition of it, a definition of inspiration, in my opinion. It's a
Thank you.
beautiful story. Yeah, and so tied to that, do you believe that using stories to inspire and lead is important?
I think it is. And again, I come from a Sicilian household. So if you've ever been around a bunch of Italians or Sicilians, we have stories for days. But it's also too, I remember just growing up around my parents and my grandparents, and it was always stories. I was a visual person, so that's why they told me stories, because I can envision myself being like the main character in the story that they're telling. And stories are huge, because that was an easy way for me to be inspired, that wow, like this living figure, they're telling me about this person for whatever message that they're trying to send to me, actually did this, and now look at where they're at in life. And they were even just talking about life decisions, going down the right or the wrong path, being able to build habits at such a young age, doing well in school, being honest and open and always being yourself no matter what people thought. Going for it. That's what my dad always said. You got to go for it. Like, you don't want to live a whole life knowing that you never took risks, because you never know what those risks could have turned into. They could have helped, really get to succeed, they could really help get to that place that you wanted to be, those goals in life, that the dreams that you have, that you aspired. So for me, it was always stories, and my dad would be telling stories, my grandparents, my friends, even in teaching, when I was a second grade teacher and talking to my students, it was always going back to the stories that my parents taught me, and just seeing how they were inspired as second graders. And even in this industry, when you're trying to help young entrepreneurs that are like, hey, like, I want to start my business, but I don't even know where to start. That's where stories really help, kind of inspire them, because they can picture themselves being that main character and seeing themselves like, okay, I get where you're coming with that. I've always done it that way, rather than just saying words and making a point, a statement. I always try to put it in some sort of story, because then they can envision themselves being that person.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is I think the reason stories historically have been so powerful is even back in caveman times, they allow us to envision ourselves as that character, and it gives us that human connection. It
Mm.
allows us to have more possibility and options, because we can imagine ourselves in the position of that character in the story, just like the hero's journey. We love hearing those stories because we can see just a little bit of ourselves in that story, which is very powerful, especially teaching young people, entrepreneurs, or really anyone.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. So since you have a lot of stories in your toolkit, what are some of the key transformational stories, or stories that really stuck with you that were the most inspiring?
I think for me, it was like going back to my grandfather. He always said, "Hey, look, you're an interesting personality. Like I'm a type A personality, and it doesn't always mesh with everybody. And I get it. I'm super energetic, and some people that are a little bit more to themselves are like, okay, that's a lot of energy to handle. But he always said, be yourself. Be yourself, no matter what. Be yourself, because those people that want to be in your life and be on that train, that journey of life, he always liked to call it. You'll realize who those people are, and those are the people that really matter at the end of the day. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And I remember specifically with me going from a small Catholic school in Burlingame of 36 students and jumping into high school, and all of a sudden I had 500 classmates. And then you get peer pressured, and you're seeing all the different groups, the jocks in this group and this group, and you're trying to fit in, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this group doesn't like me over there. What did I do? I didn't even say anything to them. And so now you're like, well, do I need to change who I am to fit in? And I remember specifically that I went down that path, and I lost like my little group of friends. They're like, well, we just love you for you. Like, what does it care what all these other people, think about you? And I remember like crying at the dinner table with my parents. And I said, "Wait, is there something wrong with me?" And they're like, "No, there's not. Like, you just have to understand that some people are just going to have gripes about you, and you just have to deal with it. But you know what? Those aren't the people that are going to help impact your life or be those people that you can depend on later on. It's the people that truly love you for you." And I always took that with me, because as I got into college, and it was a big thing in my life, but when I got into college, I was dealing with freshmen in college that were battling the same thing, that were kind of going through the same exact story that I went through. So I was able to take them into my room and just have a one-on-one chat and say, you know what, like, you do you, you be you, because at the end of the day, when you get older, you're gonna know who those close friends are, and the people that actually love you for you. And so it was just crazy, because it was one of the hardest parts of my life. But I always know that God works in funny ways, and it was great that He was able to have me be a mentor for these college students coming into St. Mary's, and just letting them know that always be yourself. That's the most important thing. Always be yourself, and you'll do special things. But you got to be authentic, and you got to be genuine. And you got to be yourself.
Yeah, and it really is important to build that tribe and that community for support so that you can rely on them both in business and in life, because we don't know everything. None of us do. I
Yeah,
mean, you're great at what you do in business, but I'm sure you have a great community of people that support you across a lot of different aspects of your business. And so being authentic is how you attract those right people that can be in your corner to support you along the way. And it's really interesting. A lot of people that I end up coaching have this struggle, like going back to your branding as the CEO, branding for the company. It's so important to be authentic. It really is, like, not to wear a mask and pretend to be somebody that you're not, or have a different way you present yourself in your business, because that's exhausting, and you're
yeah.
not going to attract the right clients, right?
Well, in it, eventually, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to sleep at night, because you know internally that you're not you. And there's no better feeling than to wake up and to be like, you know what, I have my business, I have my business partner, we're authentic, we're genuine, our clients know who we are, our employees know who we are, and you can go to bed, at night knowing that, like, you know what, I am who I am, and people are seeing me for who I am. Because when you wear that facade, it only lasts for so long before internally it starts breaking you down. And I always tell people too, you got to be able to love yourself before you can love others.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, and people struggle with that. I've had friends that have struggled with that, but I just kind of tell them, like, you know what, it doesn't matter how many friends you have. It's the quality. It's those having those pillars in your life that are going to be there through the ups and downs. And heck, especially during a time like this, like, these are the people you lean on as being your support group.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to have that support system, because life can just change, on the dime, and you never know when it's going to happen. Well, I'm so glad that your grandparents taught you that and shared those stories so you can pass that on as well to those freshmen in college. You kind of already alluded to this, but is there maybe another example of how you use stories to teach, mentor, and lead?
Yeah, this biggest story that I tell is, and it happened just a few years ago. It's hard when you're an entrepreneur and you obviously have this set way of doing things, right? Because it's just you. You're starting off your business. You don't have to get anyone's approval. It's your brand. You're trying to come up with the concept of how you want things done. But then as soon as you bring a business partner in, and then now you're bringing employees in. And as much as I love my employees, like I can definitely say like, hey, there's been some hires down, in the past that maybe haven't fit the exact mold that we're going for. Great people, but just don't fit the mold. And I think the biggest thing that I struggled with is the fact that, you know what, you're going to bring employees on board and they're going to make mistakes, and you have to be okay with that. Like that's how they're going to learn, so you can't sit there and be down their throat and critique every little mistake that they make, or, oh my gosh, like, are they the right fit? Do we need to get rid of them and find someone else? You have to be okay with that, to know that, these people, they have the right mind frame and the right qualities that we're looking for people to represent our company, but they also have to be taught. You have to be able to have that leadership and teach them along the way. And so me being on the sales side, when someone doesn't do something correctly, obviously you have to talk to the client, and, they're upset or whatever it might be, or it wasn't up to their standards. So you're having those tough conversations. So it was hard for me to sometimes, with the frustration aspect, to take that and push that to the side and just put on your mentor hat and your leader hat, and to talk to them as far as like, okay, like I know you did it this way and maybe it might have not been the correct way, but this is how we need to approach the situation for next time. And that was hard for me. The first like 6 years. And it wasn't until my full-time employees that were in the office, had done a little bit of a review on the owners. And my business partner is like the teddy bear. I can be a little bit more cutthroat because I'm the sales guy and I'm the one selling the vision. But when I got the reviews of just critiques that they had on me, I had to kind of take a step back and say, wow, like, I didn't think I was that way, or I didn't think I talked to someone that way, or I didn't know I made someone feel that way. And so when we had the state of Verducci's, and it was an opportunity to bring all of our employees together for one night, we all talk and spoke about what our roles are, especially for the new people that were joining our company. But I remember sitting there or standing there, having a speech, and it was like my grandfather that just told me, you know what, get out from behind the mic, like go out into the crowd and speak to them and put the speech away. And so I remember just breaking down like in tears and just saying sorry, and that how blessed I am that people could give me that kind of constructive feedback, still saying, hey, we love you, but we want to give you this feedback just so that you can build this company even further and even get more of the right people to be on board. But you got to be, a better leader in these, certain aspects. And so it was great to just have employees that were actually able to help me take a step back, have that, that moment of looking yourself in the mirror and knowing how I needed to grow in order for this business to take the next step. So I've always told people, you got to be authentic. And that was a very vulnerable moment. My parents were there. I'm like, what did we sign up for? Oh my gosh, like you're out here just like putting your heart out, but like we didn't know it was going to be in this format. But it's a moment that I never forgot, because anytime I get into a situation like that, I just go back to that moment, saying how blessed I am for having employees that were able to allow me to take a step back and to be, to be honest with myself, knowing of, hey, there's areas I still need to improve to be a better leader. If we're going to get to this vision that we had for our 10 years or 15 years down the road.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage to show that kind of vulnerability with your employees there. I like
Yeah.
that you call the event the State of Verducci.
Yeah.
That's fun, very playful. I
Yeah,
love
we were
it.
like, we have to be a little bit creative. That's what we do. We create the energy and the vision, and we're like, you know what? Instead of State of the Union, let's just have State of Verducci's and allow people to go up on stage and explain who they are and what their roles are, so people understood. But also for them to show their personalities and why they love doing what they do.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a way for you to get to know them in a more personal way, to bring down the veil of, understanding and the ego, so that you can take that constructive feedback and connect. Because the whole idea, like you said, is people that really care about you, they are going to share constructive feedback because they care. I would say that people that don't care about you are less likely to share constructive feedback. And so while it's difficult to swallow at times and hear, it's so important, because if you look at it from the correct lens, that these people genuinely care about you and your vision and your company, then it is emotional and it is vulnerable, because you want to be the leader that they are seeking to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and they knew that I was genuine, authentic. It's just, at the time, you want to be in every part of your business and you're stretched thin, and then it's the exhaustion, standpoint where you're just coming into work tired. You've already worked like a 14-hour day prior, and it was a good moment for me to take a step back and say, you know what, like, this is why I have employees. This is why these people are on board believing in our vision as a company. You have to trust them. You have to allow them to show their talents and to use their skills to help take things off your plate, so that you're able to kind of do a few things well, and you don't have to feel like you have to do everything on your own. And that's a big tip for anyone that wants to own their business or get into that, is you have to know how to delegate. One, it's
Yeah.
the hardest thing is finding the right people, because obviously they play a part in your reputation as a company, but it's also knowing how to delegate and to know when to be hands off and to allow them to use their strengths and their creativity and their skills, to the best of their ability.
Yeah, they can't really shine and thrive unless you take off the training wheels
Yes.
and let them do their thing, which is why you hire them in the first place. But it is a difficult thing, because it is your reputation and your brand. And, when you're an entrepreneur and you create a business, it's kind of like your baby. And so you're like,
Yeah.
okay, you're very protective of that baby. So I think that it's even more difficult when it's your own business to delegate than it is maybe in a corporate environment when you're a director, for example.
Yeah, and I was gonna make the point too. I've been blessed to have a great business partner who's turned into a brother, a best friend for me. But we can have those conversations, and he's not afraid to just give me constructive feedback. Hey, like, I want to approach it that way, or hey, I know you're upset, but you have to think about it from their standpoint. So it's been great. I've been blessed to a lot of my I would say my weaknesses are his strengths and vice versa. So it's like this perfect relationship that we have in this brotherhood. But again, if you're looking to get into business and you're thinking about having a partner, that's really important, because you have to be honest, authentic, genuine, but have those tough conversations in order to take those steps forward.
Yeah, and I also think it's really important, if you're going to look for a partner in business, to complement each other and not
Yes.
necessarily have the same strengths. There's a great example of this. They say that it's great to have a visionary partner and then an implementation partner. I get the sense that, Andrew, you're the visionary, and
He is
that
definitely implementation.
he's the
I am definitely not
implementation.
that. He loves systems. He loves numbers. He loves building graphs and charts. And I'm just like the guy. Like, I like to have conversations like this. Talking about goals and selling the vision. It's hard for me to sit in those conversations. I'm better at them now than when we first started. But if I didn't have him, I mean, this business wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Because any business, it's all about your systems. I mean, you have to have a foundation and systems in place if you expect to grow exponentially.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're a visionary like Andrew and you have an idea, it might be in your interest to find a partner like a Lawrence, who is more of
Yes.
an implementer.
No, he's great too, because I'm the guy that can get out and do the virtual parties. His wife is a nurse, so she's on the front lines right now. He had to become a full-time father because he has two kids, and he's like, well, like, I'm not really the guy to be doing these virtual parties. Like, I don't want the camera on me at all times, but like, you feed off of that. Like, you get energy from that. So that was, again, how we complemented each other during this time. I said, well, I'll be the face. I'll put my face out there so people continue to see me, see the business, bring people together, and you can just kind of work financially behind the scenes. And he's like, I am totally fine with that. Like, that's what I want to do. I'll do the books. I'll do the systems. You be out there and be the face and help bring people together, and like, hopefully find ways to bring people together so that when business does come back and we do in-person events, people remember you for hopefully
Yeah.
making a change and standing up and being a voice, where sometimes people, it's hard for them to be that voice during times like this. So if I can help be that voice for them, then I will.
I love that. That's beautiful. Well, this has been really fun, but we're going to move now into my lightning round questions. Are you
All
up for the
right.
challenge?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. What's your favorite book?
Oh my gosh, my favorite book. Oh gosh. Um, I'm trying to remember the title of it. Here I am. I'm so bad right now at this. It was a teaching book. Come back to me on that one. I will remember it. I will remember it.
All
I
right.
promise.
All right. What networking or community group do you love the most?
I would say ILEA, MPI, and PCMA. They're all kind of at the top there, but they're all kind of different networking groups. But they're within the events industry, and I just love them all. They have supported me through thick and thin, and it's amazing to see the strength of all three of those groups, especially during a time like this, given the state of our industry. And there's so many amazing leaders. Like, just I try to have conversations at that point just to just pick their intelligence, their creativity, their knowledge to see how I can bring that to my business and my life.
I love that. What's the best piece of advice you can share with others today?
I think during these times, people are trying to figure out ways to get through this, a time like this. And people are scared about, oh my gosh, like, should I start a business during this time? There's so many things going on with the economy. I think you can start with utilizing your time to start building your visions and your goals, not just for your business, but for your life. I figure that, yes, you can have a business and all these goals, but really it reflects what you want in life. And so when we build the business, we had to ask ourselves as owners, well, what do you want in our life? Well, okay, like, we want a family, we want to live in the Bay Area, we want this kind of house, we want to be able to have stable income so that our kids can go to great schools. So I think this is a time right now, especially if you're young and you may be fresh out of college trying to figure out what to do. Start building that little cork board of visions and goals and what you want in life, because I feel like if you don't have that vision, you don't have those goals that you can get up every day and look at, it's going to be hard for you to ever attain those. Everything you do every single day, the routine that you have, like, that has to reflect what you want in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. If you could share one message with the world, what would that be?
I think it's really just, given the state right now, it's being positive. Be there for each other. Listen to each other, respect each other, have those. It's okay to have tough conversations or to agree to disagree. It's okay. But really, at the end of the day, we need more love. We need more positivity. We need more teamwork. We need to come together as a group, as a society, as a nation, through these times to really show the world how powerful we can be. But that's not going to happen if we don't all play along the same playing field and have that mutual respect for one another and have that love and positivity. It's very easy to go down the negative dark road. But I always say too, you want to be able to have people think of you as that person that was that pillar that you can lean on. And so be that person, and find little things that you could do on an everyday basis to help make a change in one person's life, and stay connected. That's the biggest thing right now during times like this. Give that text message to that friend or that family member, or just call them up. How you doing? Have a 5-minute conversation, because that could mean the world, to so many different people that are going through this time in various ways. So stay connected. It's not just through social media, but also actually calling someone, or if you can have a nice socially distant conversation at someone's house, have those conversations, because it's going to be really important to help us all get through a time like this.
Yeah, more positivity and more love. We could certainly use more of
That's
that.
it. I'm tired of the negativity and what we see in the social media handles and the news itself. So just don't fall down that path.
Yeah, I agree. What's the legacy you wish to leave behind?
I think for me, if people were to think about me and once the day that I pass, it's really, I did it with love. I did it with joy. I did it with positivity. I was authentic and genuine with whatever I did, and I put my whole heart into it. But knowing that everything I did wasn't just for myself, it was to help for the greater good. And to know that as we move on in life, it's really at the end of the day to help inspire others, that people can think about your life and how you lived it on a day-to-day basis, and the different achievements that you had and how you got there, and to know how they can maybe take a piece of your life and apply it to their own.
Beautiful. And do you happen to remember the name of your favorite book?
I can't remember it. Can you throw me? Can we make it a movie?
Make it a movie? Yeah,
Yeah, can
sure.
we say like,
Let's do
okay,
it. What's your favorite movie? That works.
okay, okay, favorite movie? I love Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is my favorite
It's a
movie.
good one.
Legendary movie, but a guy that had to also deal with a bunch of hurdles, but just found ways on a day-to-day basis to treat people with love and respect, and didn't care what people thought, externally, and just knew that he had all the talents in the world to achieve his dreams. So, and I love Tom Hanks. He's my favorite actor. So
Yeah, that's a good one. Everybody can kind of think of stories related to that movie that's seen it. It's very, very powerful. Well, great. This has been really fun. Andrew, thank you so much for taking your time to share your stories and to share your inspiration. Certainly loved the story about the 9-year-old and your history. It's been really, really powerful and really inspirational. For people who are listening, if they want to find more about you, I will have a link to your website as well as Instagram and Facebook. So if you guys want to check out Andrew, I'll have all those links in the show notes. Is there anything else you would like to add, Andrew?
yeah, please feel free. If you want to send me any direct messages via Facebook, Instagram, I'm here for you. I want to find any way that I can to help you out to whatever process that you're going through. So don't hesitate to ask me questions, or if I can send you some great articles that I've read to kind of help you with your given situation. Feel free just to message me. I'm usually pretty quick to get back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. And to our listeners, I look forward to seeing you on our next show. Thank you. Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. What is one thing you can do in this moment that will inspire someone? Without action, nothing changes. Be the change you wish to see in the world. If this show truly inspired you, we ask that you share it through your network. Help us spread the light and inspiration in the world. I look forward to seeing you here next week.